They say no one enters Obuobi forest after nightfall. Not unless they wish to never return. But in 1983 one girl did. And what happened next became a secret no one dared to repeat, until now. This is the chilling legend of Afi, the girl who vanished at midnight. Keet Krochi, a quiet lakeside town in the Volta region of Ghana, was known for two things: its hauntingly beautiful sunsets, and the forest no one talked about. Obuobi forest stood just past the yam farms and shrines. Tall, ancient trees thick with vines, gnarled roots, and a scent of old rain and forgotten things. The elders never spoke of it directly. When children asked, they were told, "Don't whistle past the baobab tree at dusk. Don't follow voices. And never ever enter Obuobi after sundown." No one questioned it. Not until Afi arrived. Afi was 17 when she came to live with her grandmother, Ma Akua, in Keet Krochi. Her mother had died in Accra, and with no one left to care for her, she was sent to her only surviving family. Afi was curious, brave, and fiercely intelligent, a city girl in a place where myths walked louder than facts. She asked too many questions. She stared too long into the forest. She laughed when boys told her of the Abonsam Nsuo, evil water spirits said to live deep within the woods. Her grandmother often warned her, "You don't mock what you don't understand, Afi. These trees, they hear." But Afi only rolled her eyes. One afternoon, Afi wandered off the footpath while collecting herbs. The village boys refused to go with her, claiming it led too close to the Obuobi border. She didn't care. That's when she found it, a clearing ringed by 7 black stones, all smooth and warm despite the shade. At the center stood a single white calabash filled with something red. Blood. She didn't know. The air felt heavier there. Answer. And there were whispers. Too faint to be real, but they made her heart beat faster. She fled, never mentioning it to Ma Akua. But that night, the whispers followed her into her dreams. The dreams grew stranger. Shadows crawling along her walls. The sound of a girl weeping from the tree outside her window. And always the same whisper. "Midnight. Home. We remember." Ma Akua noticed Afi's restlessness. She watched her granddaughter stare into the night, wide-eyed and pale. "You went into the forest, didn't you?" she asked one morning, her voice quiet as a funeral drum. Afi hesitated. "Just a little. I didn't go far." Ma Akua reached into her worn Kent bag and pulled out a small leather talisman, shaped like a crescent moon. "Wear this. It won't stop them, but it will remind them you are mine." But Afi didn't believe in curses or spirits. The charm sat forgotten under her pillow. 3 days before Afi vanished, she saw her. It was past midnight when she heard the crying again, not in her dreams this time but from outside. She crept to the window and parted the curtain. There, standing at the edge of the forest, was a girl, barefoot, draped in white, with long matted hair and eyes that reflected no light. She was staring straight at Afi. The girl raised one hand slowly, and then pointed into the forest. Afi gasped and stumbled back, heart pounding. When she looked again, the girl was gone. The next morning, Afi confronted Ma Akua. "Who is the girl in white? The one in the forest?" Ma Akua dropped her calabash bowl. Her hands shook. "You saw her?" "Yes." "Who is she?" Ma Akua sat slowly. Her eyes were distant, like they were staring through time. "They called her Ifia Nyarko. She was just 16 when she vanished in 1957. They said she was cursed. Or maybe she just loved the wrong man. One night, she walked into the Obuobi forest, following a song only she could hear. They found her anklet on the forest edge. Nothing else. Her mother said the forest had taken her, and that every few decades she returns. Afi felt ice slide down her spine. Returns. Why? To call another. That evening, Afi met with Kwame and the village teens at the lake. They were roasting plantains and telling stories. "I saw her," Afi blurted. "The girl in white." The group fell silent. Kwame leaned forward. Don't joke like that. I'm not joking. She pointed at the forest. Kwame looked uneasy. One boy muttered a prayer. AFI, still skeptical, challenged them. Let's go. Midnight. To the clearing. I want to see what this is really about. They refused. Even Kwame. All except one. Kojo, a boy with quiet eyes and an odd calmness. I'll go with you, he said. But once we enter, we don't speak her name. The moon hung high and full when they slipped from the village that night. Armed with only Kojo's flashlight and AFI's defiance, they entered Obuobi. The air turned still. Even the insects had gone quiet. The path to the clearing was darker than she remembered. The trees seemed to lean in as though eavesdropping. At exactly 12:01 a.m., they reached the ring of black stones. The calabash was gone. In its place lay a single white cloth folded neatly, with a strand of long black hair on top. And then, the crying began. Kojo turned pale. We need to leave. Now. But AFI stepped forward. The white cloth shifted. Just slightly. As though breathing. She whispered, Ifia? Kojo grabbed her arm, but it was too late. From the trees, the girl in white emerged, face obscured by her hair. She was inches from AFI. Suddenly all sound ceased. Even the wind stopped. The flashlight flickered, then died. And then silence. When Kojo opened his eyes again, he was alone. No AFI. No footsteps. Only the sound of the forest breathing. Kojo stumbled back into Kitkrochi just before sunrise. His clothes were torn, face pale, and lips cracked with fear. He said nothing. Not when the villagers asked him what happened. Not even when Ma Akua stormed through the crowd, shaking him by the shoulders, screaming, Where is AFI? He only whispered one thing before collapsing. She followed the wrong moon. He was taken to the shrine to be cleansed. But it was already too late. That night the wind changed. Came from the forest, cool and sharp. It carried with it a whisper, soft, but unmistakably AFI's voice. Ma Akua. I'm cold. The villagers froze. Some locked their doors. Others prayed louder than the wind. Children claimed to see a girl in white standing beneath the baobab tree before disappearing. Goats bleated restlessly. Dogs refused to bark. Ma Akua sat by her fire, holding the forgotten talisman. Her hands trembled. The forest hasn't taken her, she said aloud. It's marked her. That night, Ma Akua went to visit Togbi Mensa, the oldest living oracle in Kitkrochi. His home sat on a hill overlooking the lake, surrounded by ash and symbols scratched into stone. He listened to her story with his eyes closed. Finally he said, She stepped into Obuobi at Moon Peak, when the realm of the spirits aligns with ours. She didn't just vanish, she crossed. Crossed where? Ma Akua asked. To the side where Asazya's forgotten child waits. The moon spirit. That's just myth, she whispered. No, Akua, he said. It's legend. And legends are truths that survived death. He explained that once every 32 years, the full moon shines directly above the forest heart, opening a thin place, a veil where spirits reach out to the living. But only those marked by curiosity or sorrow can hear the call. AFI was chosen, he finished. And the mark. It's not just on her. It's on anyone who tries to bring her back. Ma Akua stiffened. I'm going into that forest. You're too old. I'm not going in alone. By the next dusk, Ma Akua had gathered 2 others. Kojo, still pale but determined. Adzo, a young healer and keeper of the river spirits. She knew the chance of unbinding and how to speak with things that no longer breathed. Together they approached the edge of Obuobi just before midnight, each wearing talismans carved from Nyamdua wood and sprinkled with ashes from sacred ground. Kojo carried a drum carved by his grandfather. Its beat would keep the shadows away. Adzo wore cowrie shells in her braids, symbols of passage. Ma Akua held a red candle. If it flickered blue, it meant the veil was near. As the moon reached its peak, they stepped into Obuobi. The deeper they walked, the more the forest changed. No birds, no insects, just the beat of Kojo's drum and the occasional rustling, not of animals but something watching. After an hour, they reached a tree with a trunk so black and smooth, it reflected their faces like a mirror. So gasped. This is the mirror tree. They say it shows you not how you look, but what you truly are. Kojo stepped forward. His reflection blinked, but he hadn't. He stumbled back. It's not us in the mirror. It's them. As Ma Akua passed by the tree, it whispered in Afi's voice. Why didn't you believe me, Nana? The candle flickered blue. The veil was close. They came upon a new path, winding and lined with small bones embedded in the soil. Not animal bones. Human fingers. A child's skull. Ma Akua chanted the old protection prayer. Adzo spread powdered charcoal in a circle as they moved. Kojo's drumbeat changed. Faster, deeper. Suddenly, the trees split open, forming an arch, and beyond it, a clearing bathed in unnatural moonlight. In its center stood Afi, or something that looked like her. She smiled, but her eyes were all wrong, black like burnt-out stars. Kojo, she said sweetly. You left me there. He took a step forward, dazed. Afi. Ma Akua grabbed his arm. That's not her. Not yet. The falsified smile dropped. You brought the old woman, she hissed. Her voice echoed oddly, layered with other tones, some of them not human. I want to speak to Afi, Ma Akua demanded. Then step forward and pay the price. Adzo began chanting anew, her words vibrating through the air. The false Afi screamed, a high, piercing wail that shattered the silence. From the trees, dozens of white figures emerged, faces blank, mouths sewn shut. The lost ones. The forest's children. And in their midst, the real Afi, bound in silver vines. Her eyes were closed, but she was still breathing. Ma Akua stepped into the clearing, raising the red candle. It flickered wildly. She called out, by the ash of my ancestors and the truth of the blood we share, I claim this girl, Afi Ose, back into the realm of the living. The forest shuddered. The vines around Afi loosened. But the moon spirit, wearing Afi's form, lunged forward screeching. Adzo flung a handful of river salt. It struck the spirit, sizzling like oil in fire. Kojo beat the drum harder. The figures screamed and fell to their knees. Afi opened her eyes. Nana! The candle burst into blue flame. And all went dark. The villagers gathered as Ma Akua, Adzo, and Kojo emerged from Obuobi forest just after sunrise. Afi walked between them. Life changed. She didn't speak. She didn't blink often. And though the morning sun bathed her in gold, her shadow stretched too far. Even at noon. Ma Akua clutched her granddaughter's hand tightly. But beneath the warmth of skin, there was a strange coldness. As if Afi were wrapped in a second skin, one that didn't belong. They called for celebration. Drums were beaten. Goats were slaughtered. Names were sung. But behind every smile was a flicker of unease. 'Cause something came back with her. And it was watching. That night, Ma Akua laid Afi to sleep in her hut, surrounded by protective charms. Cowries on the windows, white chalk symbols on the door, and a calabash of river water under the bed. But just before dawn, the water turned black. The next morning, Afi didn't remember where she'd gone, only that her feet were muddy and there were twigs in her hair. By the third night, the chickens refused to roost near her window. The dogs howled if she passed by. And the mirror by Ma Akua's shrine cracked on its own. Adzo came with herbs and incantations, chanting through the night. But Afi only stared at her. You're not speaking to me, healer, she whispered. You're speaking to the one beneath. Adzo turned pale. She's still tethered, she said. Whatever held her, is holding on. Kojo, now haunted by guilt, returned to the forest's edge and dug into the soil near the mirror tree. There he found a strange jar made of bone and bark, sealed with wax and twine. It pulsed faintly like a heartbeat. He brought it to Adzo. "That's a whispering jar," she gasped. "They're used to trap wandering spirits. This one is unfinished." They opened it carefully. Inside was a single white feather, a strand of Aoifi's hair, and a piece of cloth, the same cloth she wore when she vanished. Zo closed it quickly. "This isn't just a remnant. This is a piece of her soul. They didn't let her go entirely." That night Aoifi stood in the doorway and said, "Give it back." Kojo asked, "Who are you?" She smiled. "She doesn't know yet. But I do." And then she walked away, barefoot, toward the lake. Aoifi stood waist-deep in the lake when Ma Akua found her. Her eyes reflected no moonlight, only blackness. "They're calling," she said. "From beneath." Ma Akua approached slowly. "Come back, my child. The moon spirit said I belong. Said I'm the bridge." She raised her hand. The water around her rippled outward, in perfect circles. Ma Akua reached into her pouch and flung powdered iron into the lake. Sizzled. Aoifi screamed, but not in pain. It was laughter. The spirit beneath was waking. Suddenly, a voice not her own echoed. "You took her from my roots. So I planted myself in her heart." Ma Akua raised her staff, chanting a banishment rite. The wind howled. The trees at the lake's edge bowed inward. Frogs scattered. Clouds swallowed the moon. Aoifi collapsed. When she woke, she remembered nothing. That night, Aoifi dreamed she was running through a field of white grass, barefoot and breathless. Behind her, a figure with no face chased her. Tall, thin, with limbs like twisted vines. Each time she stumbled, it came closer. Each time she screamed, it whispered her name with sweetness. Finally she fell. And the figure leaned close. It said, "You left a part of yourself in the forest. I've worn it well." She woke up screaming, covered in bruises she couldn't explain. On her neck, a mark, a crescent moon glowing faintly. Ma Akua called the oracle. Togbi Mensa examined Aoifi in silence. Then he said, "She's been moon-marked. A sign of possession." Zo asked. "No," he replied. "A seed. The spirit is using her as a host, and soon it will bloom." "How long does she have?" Kojo whispered. "Until the next dark moon. In 7 days. And then she'll vanish again. But this time she won't walk. She'll lead." Ma Akua wept. "There must be a way." "There is," the oracle said. "But it must be done in the forest, where it began. They would need to perform the rite of return. But to do so, they'd have to cross into the spirit realm again, and this time willingly." The next day, the village elders gathered. 3 volunteers stepped forward to escort Aoifi. Adzo to chant the binding. Kojo to play the drum and anchor their path. Urama, a blind seer who claimed she'd spoken to the spirits before. Wore white. Each bore a token from a lost loved one, an offering to bargain with. Aoifi, weak and pale, walked behind them, her moon mark now glowing even in daylight. The path to the forest was silent. But as they entered, the trees seemed to lean forward, as if welcoming an old friend. And in the shadows, the moon spirit smiled. They entered Obuobi forest just before dusk, the time when shadows stretch long and whisper secrets. Adzo led with her staff wrapped in red cloth. Kojo followed with his gem, tied with a goatskin cord. Urama, the blind seer, walked as if she could see every leaf and stone, murmuring, "Not the left path, not the right. The path beneath the breath." Aoifi walked last, her steps light as if she weighed nothing. Her moon mark now pulsed with a dull silver glow. As they crossed the mirror tree again, Kojo's drum gave a hollow thud. The air turned thick like walking underwater. Urama whispered, "We are no longer in our world." And the forest agreed. Birds vanished. Insects stilled. Even the breeze stopped breathing. They had entered the spirit veil. Soon the trees began to move. Not sway. Move. Their roots crawled across the forest floor like serpents. Bark split open, revealing faces. Old, young, weeping, laughing, all made of wood. Fi stopped walking. "They're calling," she said. "They remember me." Adzo drew her staff. "Stay behind us." But the forest had other plans. A root snapped up and coiled around Fi's ankle. Another snatched her wrist. Kojo began to drum, a deep, steady rhythm meant to calm spirits. Urama chanted a protective prayer. The roots paused, then retreated. But not before one voice hissed from the trees. "The bride walks freely. Why do you shield her?" They continued forward, deeper into the forest's cursed heart. In a clearing they found it, 12 moss-covered stones arranged in a perfect circle. At the center was a blackened altar, cracked from age, with symbols carved in languages no longer spoken by the living. "This is where she must choose," Urama said. "Body or soul." Fi stepped into the circle, and the forest held its breath. Suddenly the moon spirit appeared. Not as a woman this time, but as a figure woven from moonlight and smoke. "You have returned," it said. "Good. The seed has taken root." Adzo pointed her staff. "We demand her release." The spirit laughed, a low, echoing sound that rattled the bones of trees. "She came willingly the first time. She was marked long before she stepped into my domain. Ask her." All eyes turned to Afi. She didn't speak. Then finally, in a voice not quite her own, she said, "I was never meant for your world. I've always belonged here." Kojo stepped forward. "You don't mean that. This thing inside you." But Afi raised her hand, and the drum exploded into splinters. Kojo was thrown back, blood running from his nose. "She is not possessed," the moon spirit said. "She is transforming." To break the bond, the rite of return had to be performed. But Afi would have to agree. Adzo began the ritual, tracing chalk symbols into the soil. Urama sang in the old tongue. Ma Akua's locket, worn around Afi's neck, was placed on the altar. Fi stood in silence. "Speak your name," Adzo commanded. "Your true name. If you wish to return, speak." Fi stepped forward. Her eyes shimmered silver. "My name is..." Pause. Afi Mensima, daughter of water, grandchild of fire, born beneath the harvest moon. The forest trembled. Zo chanted louder. The altar glowed. But the moon spirit screamed. "Lies! She is mine." Roots burst from the ground. Bark cracked like thunder. A shadow rose, the true form of the spirit, towering, horned, with 1,000 mouths whispering all of Afi's childhood fears. Urama fell to her knees, eyes bleeding. "It's feeding on memory. Don't forget who you are." Fi clutched the locket. It burned in her hand, and with it came a vision. Her grandmother brushing her hair. Kojo singing by the river. The warmth of fire. The scent of mangoes. She screamed, "I remember." And light exploded from the circle. When the light faded, Afi stood alone in the circle. The spirit was gone. The trees bowed low in silence. Adzo and Urama stirred, bruised but alive. Kojo limped, one arm broken but smiling. "You chose," Adzo said. Fi nodded. "I chose me." But just then, the moon spirit's whisper returned. "You did not return unchanged. The mark is not a curse. It's a crown." Fi looked down. Her shadow now moved on its own. And behind her eyes, something still glimmered. She was free. But not entirely. The villagers stood in silence as Afi returned. Her feet were bare. Her dress tattered. But her back was straight, and her eyes shone with a strange light. Kojo supported her arm. Adzo and Urama followed closely behind. Ma Akua's compound was now filled with people, the ones who had thought Afi lost forever, and the ones who feared her return. "She came back from Obuobi," someone whispered. "No one comes back the same," another replied. And indeed AFI had changed. She could hear thoughts in murmurs, smell fear like smoke. Animals no longer ran from her, they followed. At night, she would sit alone, staring at the forest line, whispering lullabies only the trees understood. Something was not finished. 3 nights later, she dreamed of the moon spirit again. But it didn't appear in rage. This time it knelt before her. "You wear my mark," it said. "And the forest remembers. It does not let go of what it crowns." Fi touched her moon mark. It burned cold. "Why me?" she asked. "Because you listened. Because you survived." She woke with a gasp, and saw that her shadow stood over her bed, watching her. Kojo entered moments later, bringing palm wine and news. "They say the village children are sleepwalking into the forest. 3 nearly crossed the mira tree last night." Fi closed her eyes. It's begun again. The forest wasn't hunting. It was calling her to lead. The village elders held a gathering beneath the baobab tree. Adzo stood beside AFI as her protector. The chief elder, Nene Boma, raised his hand. "Child of the cursed woods. What are you?" AFI stepped forward. Her voice was steady. "I am still AFI Mensima. But I have seen what none of you dared face. The forest is changing. It is no longer bound. It will not wait for sacrifices. It will come to collect." Urama nodded slowly. "She speaks truth. The barrier is broken. A queen walks in both worlds now." The crowd murmured. "What must we do?" asked an elder. "Let me go back," AFI said. "Alone. There is a place beneath the stone circle, a door." "A door to what?" "To where the oldest stories are buried. If I close it, perhaps the forest will sleep again." They tried to stop her, but she had already decided. This wasn't just about her anymore. It was about every girl who had vanished at midnight. This time she went alone. No drum, no staff, no guardians. Just her, the locket, and a string of black beads made from old ash and salt, a gift from Urama. She passed the mirror tree. This time, her reflection did not match her. It smiled when she didn't. At the stone circle, she spoke the old tongue. "Open, in the name of memory." The altar cracked open, revealing a stairwell that spiraled downward, deeper than the roots of any tree. As she descended, voices whispered. Some familiar, from hers, some not human. At the bottom she found it, a chamber of bones lit by silver moss. In the center stood a throne of twisted roots and moonstone. The forest's true heart, pulsed, alive, watching. She stepped forward. "I am AFI Mensima," she said. "Daughter of water, grandchild of fire. Take my place. But I take it with my name." The roots moved. The throne welcomed her. The forest bowed. Obuobi forest is no longer feared. But it is not entered lightly. Villagers now leave offerings by the mirror tree. Fruit, cloth, lullabies sung on wind chimes. No child has vanished since. Sometimes during the full moon, people see her standing just beyond the tree line. Her eyes glowing faint silver, birds circling above her. She is not entirely human anymore. She is something older. Wiser. Balanced. They call her many names. Moon's daughter. The forest's heir. But the children call her something else. The Midnight Queen. And if you ever get lost in Obuobi, if the trees begin to whisper your name, listen closely. You might hear her say, "Don't be afraid. I remember what it means to be lost. And I will guide you home." The story of AFI did not end at midnight. It began there. In Ghana's forgotten forest, she became more than a girl. She became a tale that protects others from fading into silence. For some vanish into fear, but some return as legends.